Today I'm going to be showing you guys, here a little bit of echo. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how you can set up your Plesk web server on Amazon Web Services, and also we're going to be deploying a Ghost content management system on this Plesk server as well. And to kind of replace WordPress, in my opinion, WordPress is outdated, it's a little too bloated. And so we're going to try and simplify this process. It's a little bit of front-end work, but in the long term, it really makes things easier for anybody who's not a web developer to try and make updates on your website. So with that, let's jump into our Amazon workspace. So this is a remote workspace. I just started it up. It's Amazon's version of Linux. And what we're going to be doing is heading to our workspace console. So it's going to be Amazon workspace console. And what we're going to be doing here is just signing in. We don't need to create one. We can just sign in. And I'm actually just going to switch off while I log in. So I used to host on Google Cloud, and I still do. I use Google Cloud a lot, but I've been running into scaling problems in infrastructure and maintaining a cost over the long term. So, I did a slight price comparison, and it looks like Amazon is just killing it. So we're going to be using Amazon, and let me, there we go, make that a little bit better. Trying to fit the screen but not spread it so it's too big. There we go, right there. Okay, so we're in our console, and I actually started a Plesk server earlier, so we should be able to just hop right in and start doing our work. So we're gonna head on over to Compute and EC2. We already have our instances running, so we're going to go over here to Instances. And as you can see right here, we have it. It's labeled Plesk, and I'm actually going to label this Plesk. I think it's Obsidian. And Ubuntu web hosting. And I'm actually going to do something real quick on my screen share. Let's see, laptop webcam, properties. Yo, by the way, OBS is the shit. And resolution. Okay. Why is this not working? This one works. Oh, that one's not working either. Interesting. Let me just delete that out then. Alright, sorry for doing this live, but I'll just cut it out later. Let's see. So, video capture, and we'll just do Brio. It's already set up. There we go. Okay. And make Mealy small in the corner. But, there. Awesome. Okay, so we have our Plesk, and I have not logged into this yet, so this is our first time that we're going to be hopping in. And let's see if it works. Connect. And we will be using our console to connect. I think I might just be able to go through the IP. Nope. So this is my first time using AWS, and this is certainly not, okay, so here it is right here. It's not like, come on, let me in. Add exception. So what this is saying is that our security is messed up, but it's okay because we're gonna go in and fix it. And this is new. This interface is new. I think I have a different password on this. Let me switch it up just so you guys can't see my password for Plesk, because this is actually something I'm going to be using for my clients for HammerSport Marketing. So we're setting this up to make sure that it's going to work, there's no problems, but we need a password. I think it might be this. Let me just double check. No. Usually it gives it. Usage instructions. Nope. Status check. Nope. Huh. Okay. Well. I definitely set it up. Maybe I have to use the SSH key to get in. Should be a way. Instance ID. Keep it plus on. What if we just connect through the key pair? Man. So, I'll be honest with you. Both of these services suck. Amazon sucks and Google sucks. I don't know who's designing these interfaces, but they're absolutely fucking terrible. They're not intuitive at all. But it's okay, because we're going to get through it. Just gotta find this password, which is not on here. Let me see. Instance settings. Here we go. View change user data. Cancel. Blah, blah, blah. Connect. Standalone SSH client. The key must be publicly available. Connect your instance using it. Okay, we're gonna try and do this through the shell. I don't know why, but let's just give it a whirl. Copy, and oh, you know what? I don't even have it on here. Here we go. Java. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. AWS Plesk password. We'll do setup. So Plesk has already given us some directions. Instances, IP, accessing for the first time. Linux, PuTTY. Man, I really hate PuTTY. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to use PuTTY. Wait. Here we go. SSH. And I have the key. I think I put it in my cloud. Let's see. It's right here. And now I have to transfer this over. So we're going to open the file location. We have it in my Google Drive. So what we're going to do now is drive file stream. We're going to put drive file stream on my computer, on my virtual machine. I'll show you guys what we're doing. Okay. So we're installing drive file stream to be able to sync my PEM key. I don't know if we'll be able to do it though. Maybe not. Drive file stream links. Yeah, man, I use Google Drive. Okay, I'm just gonna download it this way. And we're gonna log in. God damn. Yo, nobody makes things easy. I don't know why. When people are programmers, it's like they forget what's going on. And we're gonna save this. I guess we'll send it to the phone. Yes, 32. Okay, so now we can download this file. And we're gonna say plesk.pem and download it. Download. And we're gonna save it. Okay. Show all downloads. And I think, let's see, open containing folder, copy download. So it's Ubuntu downloads. Downloads. So make link. Delete. Cut. Okay, so now we should be able to SSH in. Let's see. Nope. Connect. Connect. I don't know what is up with this standalone. I'm not sure why we're doing it like this. Get the ID. Okay, so locate. Connect using party SSH. Using Linux instance, using SSH. SSH. Okay, so I really don't get this, but we're gonna do it anyway. SSH dash I, and I think it's gonna be Ubuntu. We'll do a little tilde on top. Ubuntu downloads, and it's plesk.pem. It's not now, it's a K. Jeez. P-L-E-S-K. Plesk.pem. And now we'll get connect. Right here, copy this. Back to the terminal. Come on. Back to the terminal. And paste. I think. Oh, come on. Alright. This is not gonna work. Sometimes, you try to do stuff and you're just not ready. And that's the situation right now. So if you're watching and you're confused, hey, welcome to my world. I'm working on a Saturday. And you know what? A lot of times for me, when I'm trying to make these how-to videos, I'm not making them for you. I'm making them because I'm trying to learn how to do it, right? So I'm trying to learn right now how to get this going. And I'll be honest with you, for the last 48 hours, I've been trying to figure out like the quote unquote best way to get your files out there to set up your blog and do all this crap. And I keep running into roadblock after roadblock. And so for me, it's like, all right, what the hell is going on? Why am I struggling so much? I have no idea. So the only thing I can do is just keep pushing forward, keep learning more. And when I have this figured out, if I have the time, I'll come on and make a real tutorial. Until then, see you next time.